Greetings, family. This is Dr. Kia, and it is Wednesday, February the 2nd. Yesterday was National Freedom Day. Yes, so I'm just coming on to tell you where I've been. My loved one, my former husband, transitioned, and that was very difficult for me to deal with. It was very difficult for me to even accept. So I haven't been feeling up to myself. I haven't felt like being on social media. I haven't felt like recording anything. I just wanted to be with my children and my family members. So what happened was he had gotten sick and he had gotten rushed to the hospital. He was only breathing at, I think he had 38% oxygen. And he had been very sick anyway with congestive heart failure. And he was living at 15% of his heart capacity for over a decade. And he was very ill and he had suffered from many strokes through the years. But we were doing everything in our power to use, natural remedies and also modalities from Western medicine too, because he had gotten so far um, gone in terms of having high blood pressure, and it was just so hard to control. And he was just basically, in a bad way, and he wasn't happy. Um, and it was just us honestly fighting to keep him around because together we have 8 children. And I just wanted to keep that legacy of having the children's father around, and having the patriarch in the family, and just having family continuity, even though we weren't married and we had decided to go our separate ways. Because remember, we married at a young age. I was 18 and he was 20. So when we married and had our children, we were madly in love as high school sweethearts. We had gone to college together and all that good stuff. He bought me my first house after 1 year of marriage, a 3-bedroom house with a fence, just what I wanted. And somehow he managed to do those things and work and go to college. We went together. We made some good, beautiful babies. And then because we were so young, I think we just made a lot of mistakes and we didn't know the power of healing and forgiveness until we were older. But sometimes you don't learn those things until you mature. So what happened was, even though we went our separate ways in terms of having other relationships, we decided that we had 2 things in common, and that is our 4 beautiful children. And then he went on in another relationship to bring me 4 more beautiful children. So now we have 8. And the power of love. And so that was so important to me because I think a lot of times people think of being in love or having those pheromones and getting high, off the pheromones and excited and heart flutters. I think people think of that as love. It's just that I chose to look at it from a different lens and a different perspective because I think that is a part of love. But love, the type of love that I have for my children's father, transcended eros or erotic love. It transcended romantic love. It was a love that was deep and compassionate. It was a love that I guess people would say is like your brotherly love or philos. And so once we went our separate ways, I made a choice. And I said I could either choose to be angry or to be sad or heartbroken because we're no longer in matrimony or joined together in marriage, or I can choose to look at it as we just evolved into a different type of relationship. And that's what I decided to do because life is a choice. And instead of looking at it like an end, like something devastating, I came to the point in my life when I decided to look at it like an evolution, a change into another type of relationship where we were, friends, because we had been friends in high school, where we were companions and we were soulmates in a way. Because there is a scripture that says, what God has joined together, let not man pull apart or put asunder. And I chose to look at that as there's a reason that we were into each other. We had come into each other's life. And so, again, we came to the conclusion at some point in our lives that we had 2 things in common: beautiful children and love. And so we allow love to fuel our relationship. So even when we went on and got other partners, in fact, I came to him and I said, I'm thinking about this gentleman that who's a musician in the church. And he grew up in the House of God church organization with us. We have an international church that expanded, many countries. I said, "So what do you think about him?" And he said, "I think he's an amazing guy. I know him. We grew up going to the same conventions, and he has great and excellent values. I think it's a wonderful job." And likewise, when he went on to his partner, I said, "You know what? She's a good person. She loves me. She knew me." Because, in our small town, everybody knows each other. "And she'll be good to my children." And because we made an adult decision to allow love to fuel our relationships and our lives, we were able to look at this as a huge blended family. So that when he became ill and it was a question as to who was going to take care of him, and he and his companion were no longer together, it was just natural for me to step forward as my children's mother and as the wife of his youth to manage his care. And I did it with great pleasure, with joy, with energy. And I did everything in my power to keep him alive. And that's why it really, really pained me when he transitioned on January the 28th. I got something cooking on the stove. But I had to relinquish my power and control and say, "It's not my will, but thine will be done," to the creator and the ancestors. And I'm coming before you today to say he has ascended into the ancestral realm, and I had to accept it. And I'm a very strong, persistent woman. I don't really like giving up a fight. In fact, when he was isolated because he did contract the C word, and he had contracted that actually before he went into the Center for Sick People. If I say any wrong word, I'll get flagged. When he was in there and he was in isolation, they tried to keep us apart for 21 days. And so what I did was I went to the front. I talked to the head person. I talked to the head person on the floor. I talked to all the others that were on the floor and doctors. And I said, "Now I need an administrator because I want to know what your policy is. I want the written policy in my hand. And if you can't provide me with that written policy, then there's going to be some trouble, because I will hope with everything in me that you are following the guidelines." Okay? And so they looked at each other like they were surprised that I asked for the written policy. And when I saw what the policy was, it was from October the 8th, 2020, an old, outdated policy that I was not happy about. So there were two things about it. If you had contracted the C word and you was asymptomatic, then you were supposed to only be segregated from society for 10 days. But if you were symptomatic and you required a lot of oxygen, then you had to be segregated for 20 days. Well, mine was asymptomatic, although he had all these other illnesses. But the C word, in terms of that, he was asymptomatic. And he no longer required a lot of oxygen because I demanded that they take that machine out of his body. And so when they saw that, and I saw that that was an outdated policy, I told them, this has been changed twice. Once in September 2021 and once in January the 6th, 2022. My son had told me that. So I said, "This policy is outdated. Now I'm going to leave here tonight. And when I come back in the morning, I expect to walk right through those doors." Now, of course, we had been walking through the doors anyway behind their backs when they weren't there, but they did everything in their power they even called security to keep us from our loved one. When I came back that next day, as soon as I walked in the door, it was a sister standing by the elevator. She said, "You've been cleared." And I told her, "Thank you." While I was on my way, I was talking to a physician who told me, this isn't a battle you want to fight with me. I'm not the person you want to fight. I said, "There's no fight. I should hope that you and all the staff are following the guidelines, because if you aren't, there's going to be a problem." Okay? So I fought for that, and it seemed like everything along the way was a battle. It's been that way for many years in terms of getting his health up to par, and even in my life in terms of getting scholarships, in terms of getting money, in terms of, I mean, it's just weird the way the powers that be have set up a system to try to keep us in this small area. But I believe in fighting, and I would fight. I've written letters. I've been to court. I've done whatever it takes. I've been to presidents. I've been to higher up officials. I've even called on ancestors in the ancestral realm to help. And that's how I've lived my life. And thankfully, the Creator has opened doors for me and allowed me to have access to the things that I need. So I'm just coming here before you today to say that my loved one transitioned into the ancestral realm and make more videos as I am able. Right now, I am spending time with my family and preparing for the homegoing service, which will be held on Sunday. And we have some powerful, dynamic speakers because it's going to be a celebration. And I'm excited. So those are my friends and family members from the House of God. Elder Askew, he will be speaking. Not Elder Askew, I'm sorry, Bishop Askew. He will be speaking and doing a sermon. It's going to be passionate and very fiery. And you also know Bishop Bell from Ohio. He is a lifelong friend of mine and Douglas's. So I'm excited. And both men are the godparents, godfathers of some of our children. So we're excited about that. It's going to be a dynamic service, a celebratory service. And then, of course, Apostle Ronnie Diamond Horde, who used to play for the Ohio Players and sing for the Ohio Players, is my uncle. He will be speaking and playing. And then my son, Dexter Lattimore, who is a musician and a former pastor, will also be singing and playing, as well as my other children. And elect Lady Henrietta Whitehorde, who raised me in the holiness tradition, she will be speaking. And because of her, I am actually the woman that I am, because she imparted into me values like love, joy, peace, kindness, and forgiveness. And those are all the traits that my former spouse embodied. So when somebody asked me, how could you take care of a former spouse? I said, because we had two things in common. Our beautiful children, 8 children, thanks to the ones I had and his other companion had, 8 children. And the love that we shared. And love is compassionate. Love is kind. Love is gentle and forgiving and forbearing. And love does not keep records of a person's wrong. So that's what I came here to say today, that when you walk in love, the Creator will allow you to do mighty and magnificent things. And that's my former pastor, Bishop Ganelcha Askew, said to me the other day when he called me on the phone to comfort me. He said, Kia, God keeps record of everything you do. God not only keeps record, but he will reward you accordingly. See, I'm not ashamed or scared of God keeping record of my life. And I'm not afraid of judgment, because I set a high standard for myself, the bar high, and I do everything in my power to achieve that high standard, because I press toward the mark of perfection, and I keep pressing until I reach it. So when you say God is keeping record of my life, I rejoice and I get excited and I look forward to the judgment. Peace. That's all I have to say. Love you. Gotta cook dinner. Bye.